In this presentation, we'll address scripts and how to overcome self-defeating and self-sabotaging behaviors and thoughts. What is a script? It's really just an unconscious judgment that you have in your head that dictates how you think, feel, behave, act. Unfortunately, sometimes they're negative because they're driven by the inner critic and inner defender, but you can reestablish them and redefine them with your inner guide. They're built upon core beliefs, which are your values, your morals, your ethics, and really it's a matter of how you view yourself, the world, and how you fit in. We hear a lot of very negative things when we've experienced a failure, for example. Our brain and our scripts might automatically run to these kinds of perceptions, ideas, and definitions. And you need to become more aware and conscious of them, because when that thought pops into your head, when this is the driving force behind your thoughts and your actions, you need to do something so that you can rewrite that script. Where do scripts come from? Well, they could come from the way that people react to you and the way that others respond to you. They also can come from the way that significant adults spoke to us and communicated with us, and the way that they communicated with us. For example, you can see a teacher giving very positive reinforcement to a child here. It's also influenced by what we saw other significant adults do. So, for example, if we saw our parents in a loving and nurturing relationship and getting along not only with each other, but treating us with dignity and respect. Or on the flip side, we could have had a parental model that wasn't necessarily the most perfect, having habits and behaviors and thoughts and beliefs that weren't necessarily the most healthy. But we have to remember that's what we saw as a role model and how we began to define and establish those core beliefs and scripts. So let's take a look at some student behaviors that might have arisen from scripts and either the role models that they had or behaviors that might have been validated in the past or excused in the past. Maybe you have a student, or you're a student who is constantly late, and you wonder why you don't hear the announcements, you miss pop quizzes, you don't get all of your attendance points. If you really never had a strong feeling about the importance of punctuality and really thought about why it was important to do so, then that might be a script that you carry forward, and it could be problematic not only in your classes but in the work world too, because your employers aren't going to be very happy about you being late. Maybe you have a difficult time in receiving criticism or maybe getting assistance. Maybe you feel like you're being humiliated or embarrassed or being criticized too much. Maybe you had expectations that were held very high for you that you didn't feel comfortable with, or people degraded you or insulted you, and so you feel that anytime you get feedback, you have to be on the defensive. Those are scripts that need to be overwritten. Sometimes students feel that if they show up and they participate and they engage, then that's enough. That just being known and being recognized is going to get them through their classes. And it's very frustrating for teachers because that student might be very bright and a great contributor, but if you don't do the work, if you don't turn in the homework and put in your best effort, then it's really going to be difficult for you to be successful. Just the same as if you're apathetic, you're not interested, and your instructor has tried to reach out to you in some kind of way, and you choose not to react or respond. There's only so much that an instructor is going to do to assist you. You still have to be there, to be engaged, to be involved, and you have to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. Another frustrating element for teachers is to see that student who either was or was not doing well, but just disappears. We really are here to help you in the good or the bad. So come and talk to us. If you're struggling, if you feel uncomfortable, if a situation occurred inside or outside of class, come and talk to us, make us aware of it. Don't feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, or that you have to struggle in silence, or that you have to just give up because you're too far behind, or whatever the situation may be. There might not be a resolution to make it a workable situation for you to stay in class or pass the class, but there very well might be. We can get you to resources and help to keep you there and help you be successful, whether it's in this class, whether it's this semester, or the future. Finally, you are in an environment where you've got a variety of people with a variety of perceptions, perspectives, backgrounds, senses of humor. You may be in a class where somebody says something off color or insulting, or maybe they think they're being funny but they're not. And you can't just take that personally and be affronted and just not address it in any kind of way. Make sure that if you feel like there's a situation, circumstance, or environment that you're uncomfortable with, that you share that with someone, whether it's the instructor directly or someone else, like maybe an advisor. It's important for you to have that stamina and persistence. If you don't recognize when you're going off course, there's no way for you to really remedy it. So you need to be like a CSI, and you need to track down how you got here, why you weren't successful, and what you can do differently so that won't occur again in the future. And you need to examine things like the habits that you have that sabotage your success, the beliefs that you have that get you off course, and the kinds of choices that you're making that led you to the environment and situation you're in. Sometimes you need to just get out of your head. We have all of those thoughts swirling around in there, and they can be positive and negative, and they really can get in your way. And sometimes you can't get out of your own way because you're stuck in them. So, again, please talk with someone when you feel like you're stuck in that rut or routine. If you really examine how habits work, they don't appear magically like some people perceive, where, oh, if I do it a couple times, it's become a habit. No, we really get ourselves into a cycle. We have unconscious routines. We get influenced by other people. We get influenced by our culture and what surrounds us in our environment. Those can be good or bad. They can be healthy or toxic. We can get into these loops and routines of good and bad things where we react to cues or rewards. And we always have to self-examine as to whether or not what we're making as our choices are good or bad and how they're affecting our outcomes. Frequently, students will create a pattern for themselves and they won't know how to get unstuck. I get students asking me how to improve their study habits. And I'll ask them what they do to prepare for an exam, for example. And they'll say, oh, I make flashcards, I re-examine my notes, I reread the chapters. And so I'll make suggestions. Well, have you done readings outside of what you were required to do? Have you ever met with a study group? Have you ever worked with a tutor? Have you ever used other tools and resources? And they'll say, "No, no, this used to work for me, but it's not working for me now." Well, if it's not working for you now, then you're doomed to make that same mistake. So you can never make the same mistake twice. The second time you make it, it's no longer a mistake, it's a choice. So you need to get yourself out of that rut and routine. So, how do you get out of those self defeating and self sabotaging thoughts, behaviors, and actions? You have to identify them first and recognize the impact and influence they have on your everyday life. Your thoughts will affect how you act and you feel. Your behaviors will then affect how you think and you feel. And your emotions will affect what you think and you do. So they're all tied together. And unless you realize, again, the connection that they have and how they influence each other, you're never going to be able to break those cycles. Here's some advice. There's three primary things that you can do as a student or employee that will always help you be successful. And if you keep those in mind and they drive you, they're your motivating factors, you will be successful. One is to show up. And that means you're making that commitment to be where you need to be on time. You're there the entire time that you need to be there. And when you're there, you're truly present. You're there and you're focused and you're ready to pay attention. Another suggestion is to always do your best work. If you just do things to go through the motions and get them done, you're really not putting in your best effort or getting anything out of the effort you're putting in. So you need to not only do your work and do it by your due dates and deadlines, but be thorough. Be exhaustive. Don't give the one word answer. Go that extra bit so that you're getting the most out of the experience. Finally, you want to participate as actively as possible. Get engaged, get involved, and ask questions. When you do that, you not only demonstrate that you've been actively learning, but that you've made that commitment. And you're much more likely to establish a better relationship with a teacher if you can demonstrate that you have that engagement and participation. Finally, you want to write your own rules and you want to make sure that your goal is always going to be successful. You can change bad habits, bad thought patterns, bad behavior patterns, and you can rewrite that script to have whatever outcome you want. Just make sure that you have a definition of it and that you're paying attention along the way to see when you've gotten off track and that you come up with a plan to get yourself back on track. When you do that, you can take any script and give it whatever ending you choose.